Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Erin Ripka, and I am the violin instructor at All Saints Music School, as well as a Sunday school helper. You might also know my husband, Joseph Ripka, who is the director of music at All Saints, and my daughter Clara, who is 9 years old and is a chorister and a member of the Sunday school. For our Sunday school lesson this morning, Pastor Finn has asked me to teach you the story of an important woman in the Bible named Esther. I will be reading you a book called Esther, the Brave Queen, retold from the Bible by Corrine Mackenzie. After we finish the book, I will discuss some important lessons we can learn from Esther's example. I really hope you enjoy this story. Esther was a beautiful Jewish girl. Her people had been taken away by force from their own land, so Esther lived in the land of Persia, which today we call Iran. Her parents were both dead, and she had been brought up by her uncle's son, Mordecai. Ruling over Persia was the mighty king Ahasuerus. He had a wonderful palace in Shushan with white, green, and blue curtains fastened with silver rings to marble pillars and rich marble floors colored red, blue, white, and black. Ahasuerus made a grand feast for all his princes and servants. There was plenty of food and drink. After 7 days of eating and drinking, the king gave the order that Vashti, the queen, was to come from her rooms in the palace into the dining hall so that all the princes could admire her beauty. "Tell the king I will not come," said Vashti. King Ahasuerus was very angry with her. He and his advisors decided to punish Vashti. She was to be a queen no longer. Someone else was to be chosen to take her place. A notice was sent out through the land. Any beautiful young girl who would like to become queen should come to the palace in Shushan. The king would choose the one he liked best. Many girls flocked to the royal palace, and among them was Esther. She spent a whole year there preparing to meet the king. Every day, Mordecai walked past the courtyard of Esther's house to find out if all was well. Eventually, it was Esther's turn to go to the king. When he saw her, he loved her more than anyone else. He put the royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. He made a feast in her honor, but no one knew that she was Jewish. Mordecai had thought it wiser to keep that a secret. Esther did as Mordecai asked. One day, Mordecai overheard 2 of the king's officers plotting to kill King Ahasuerus. Mordecai told Esther, and she reported it to the king, giving Mordecai the credit. The report was investigated and found to be quite true. Both men were hanged. The whole story was written in the royal record books. The most important person in the king's service was a proud man called Haman. Every time he passed by, the people would bow down to him, everyone except Mordecai. Mordecai was a Jew who bowed down only to God. We too must worship only God and not allow anyone or anything else to take his place. Haman was enraged by this insult. He was so angry, he wanted to get rid of all the Jews from the land, especially Mordecai. Wicked Haman made up a law that every Jewish person throughout the land, young and old, men, women, and children, would be killed on a certain day, 11 months later. The king agreed to the law, and copies of it were sent throughout the land. Mordecai heard the terrible news. He put on coarse, rough garments instead of his own clothes and put ashes on his head to show how sad he was. He cried loudly and bitterly. News was brought to Esther that her cousin was sitting outside the gate in a sorry state. Esther was very upset. She sent out some nice new clothes to Mordecai, but he refused them. Esther sent Hattach, her special servant, to find out what the problem was. Mordecai told him all about Haman's wicked plot. He gave a copy of the law for Esther to see for herself. "Perhaps Esther can plead with the king on behalf of her people," said Mordecai. "How can I do that?" thought Esther. "No one is allowed to go into the king without being asked. He has not asked me for the last 30 days. Mordecai urged Esther to think of something. "You would be killed too," he said. "Who knows, but you may have been made queen so that you could do something now." "What do you want, Queen Esther?" asked Ahasuerus. "You can have anything you wish, even half of my kingdom." "I would like you and Haman to come to a banquet today," replied Esther. "Certainly," said the king. "Tell Haman to hurry to a banquet prepared by Esther," he ordered. Esther did not tell the king yet of her problem. At the feast, he again asked her what she would like from him. Perhaps she felt the time was not right, or perhaps she was afraid. She said, "I would like the king and Haman to come to another banquet tomorrow." God had Esther's life in his plan. He knew each step. God has your life in his plan too. Everything is known to him. Esther sent back her reply to Mordecai. "Gather all the Jews in the town of Shushan and fast for 3 days. I and my maids will do the same. Then I will go to see the king, and if I die, I die." But Esther did not die. When she went to see the king 3 days later, he was pleased to see her. He held out his golden scepter, which is a sign that she should come near him. How amazing to think that we can speak to the King of Kings at any time. We can pray to God and tell him our problems, and he will listen to us and help us. Haman was highly delighted with this special honor. The only thing that spoiled his enjoyment was the sight of Mordecai at the king's gate, standing straight and tall as he went past. Mordecai would not bow down to him. When Haman went home, he boasted to his wife and family of how favored he was by the king and Queen Esther. "But all these honors are worth nothing to me so long as I see that Jew Mordecai." "You should get rid of Mordecai," they all suggested. "Build a big gallows 75 feet high and have Mordecai hanged." "What a good idea," thought Haman. "I will do that straight away." What a wicked man Haman was, but things did not work out as Haman had expected. God's timing is perfect. He has all his creatures and all their actions in his care. That night the king could not sleep. "Bring a book and read it to me," he ordered. One of the record books was brought, and the story of how Mordecai had uncovered the plot to kill Ahasuerus was read out. The king was very interested to hear this. "What honor has been done to Mordecai to show my gratitude?" "Nothing has been done," he was told. "Something must be done right away. Is there any official about at this time of night?" Ahasuerus was told that Haman was there. "Good. Bring him to me at once," the king said. "Haman, I want to honor someone. What would be the best way to do that?" asked the king. "Oh," thought Haman, "surely he means to honor me." "Well," said Haman, "a good idea would be to let the man wear your royal robes and royal crown and be led on your horse through the city streets. Hurry up and do just that to Mordecai, the Jew, who sits at my gate." Haman was shocked. How horrified he felt giving this honor to the man he hated. While he was telling his wife and friends of his misfortune, he was hastily called to Esther's second banquet. Esther entertained the king and the wicked Haman at another lovely meal. The king asked her again, "What can I do for you?" "O king," replied Esther, "please spare my life and the lives of my people. A plot has been hatched to kill all the Jewish people. If we were only to be sold as slaves, I would have held my tongue." "Who had decided to do this?" demanded Ahasuerus. "This wicked man Haman," declared Esther. Haman was terrified. The king was so angry, he went out into the palace garden. Haman turned to Esther and begged her to be lenient with him, but the king was enraged as he thought Haman was trying to hurt Esther. "Haman has made gallows to hang Mordecai on," the king was told. "Hang Haman on them instead," he ordered. King Ahasuerus gave Haman's property and lands to Esther. Esther told the king that Mordecai was her cousin. Mordecai was given Haman's ring, and Esther made Mordecai the manager of Haman's estate. Esther begged the king to reverse the orders that Haman had sent around the country. So the royal scribes were called to write another letter to be sent to all the corners of the kingdom. The letter was sealed with the king's ring and sent out by messengers on fast horses or mules or young camels. The Jews were to have power over the other people in the land instead of being subject to them. Mordecai was highly honored by the king. He was given a blue and white robe and a crown of gold. He was next in importance to the king. The Jewish people were very glad and had many celebration feasts and sent presents to one another. What Esther did is still remembered by Jews to this day. But what God did for them is even more important. He has the lives of all men in his hand. What we sometimes think is chance is really God working. The Bible tells us that all things work together for good to them that love God. The end. The story of Esther provides us wonderful examples of bravery, loyalty, and compassion. Esther doubts at first that she will be able to convince the king to save her people. However, she places her trust in God and takes the steps necessary to communicate wrongdoings to the king. She is willing to sacrifice her own well-being in order to save others because she loves her people. Most importantly, though, Esther's story speaks to God's faithfulness in our lives. Even when we are unsure or scared, God is with us and has a plan for us. Instead of doubt and fear, we place our hope and faith in God, and He will take care of us. You might wonder, how can I let God know when I need His strength and encouragement? The answer is that you can find Him in prayer. God is available anywhere and at any time to listen to you and to help you. God cares for you and hears the deepest desires of your heart. His love is an incredible gift. I hope that you have enjoyed learning more about Esther. Thank you again for joining me, and have a beautiful Sunday.